video, guys. Glad to have you here. Today, we're going to do something that we actually never done before here on the channel. And I'm going to share who I feel is the most underrated epic champion in every single faction inside the game. And the reason we're going to pick just one per faction. And I am going to err on the side of champions that are good support champions or control champions or just really S tier debuffers. That way you guys can get through faction wars. If you're struggling in a certain faction area, you'll have maybe an idea of a champion that deserves a second look for your team. And even if you are one of the few lucky ones who have completed all the faction wars, these are certainly champions that can help you out in certain Doom Tower secret rooms as well, and a variety of other areas in the game.
Wait a minute!
What are those? Vintage.
So adorable.
So let's go ahead and jump right into it here with Banner Lords. And I want to hear from you guys as well. Who did I snub? I haven't even, given you guys any champions yet, but let me know who I snubbed and who your underrated champion from each of these factions would be, especially if you have one specific favorite champion here. So starting with the Banner Lords, it's definitely Gizcard the Sigiled, or Gizcard? Gizcard?
Gizcard.
We'll go Gizcard.
Impossible!
Gizcard the Sigiled here. He has decreased attack on his A1 at a very decent 75% land rate. On his A2, an AoE provokes 75% and a shield on himself to keep him alive. On his A3, on a 3-turn cooldown, he's bringing increased defense and increased attack to the table. And then he has a turn meter fill whenever he's attacked by an enemy under provoke or increase attack, which they are, pretty often because of the provoke on his A2. He's a defense-based champion with a lot of base defense at 1454 for an epic, especially that's very, very high. And he has defense in faction crypts by 27%, especially for faction wars. This dude is rock solid, especially bringing both of the big versions of increased defense and increased attack on a 3-turn cooldown. On High Elves, look no further than Vergis. Vergis is like the absolute king of Ally Protect in this game, and Ally Protect is the best damage mitigator inside the entire game, soaking up 50% of all damage onto allies after it checks their defense first. So how Ally Protect works is it does the damage, or it doesn't actually do any damage, but it checks their defense, each individual ally, and then the raw damage after their defense will go through to the protector, not including poison and HP burn. Vergis brings a lot to the table here. On one ally on a 3-turn cooldown, you get increased speed, continuous heal, reflect damage, and then on all allies, you get the big version of Ally Protect, you get the big version of increased defense on himself, and this sucker is almost impossible to kill. He's putting a shield on himself every time he loses 10% of his max HP. He's dropping continuous heals on himself every time his HP drops below 50%, and this is all on a 1-turn cooldown when you book him out. Vergis is definitely one of the best support champions inside the game after his buff, and he got a massive buff. He used to really suck. Got a buff about a year ago or so. Sacred Order, man, there's a lot of great champions here. I could definitely point out a few of them here. Hope, I'm a big fan of. Quite a few others, but Sanguinia. Sanguinia is another kind of recent-ish addition, I guess, in the last year or year and a half or so. Time flies by. And Raid Shadow Legends, especially when they're adding 15 champions per month, it seems like, to the game, right? Why all the new champions? Buff the ones that are already in the game.
Why all the new champions? Buff the ones that are already in the game.
But Sanguinio is actually a really good one, right? On her A1 has a chance of decreasing the duration of 2 random buffs, not bad for an A1. On the A2, she's bringing block debuffs for 1 turn on a 3-turn cooldown and a continuous heal for 2 turns, big version. So a good heal, block debuffs. It gets even better. On her A3, she is cleansing all debuffs, or excuse me, transferring all debuffs from this champion to the target and then cleansing the entire team after that. So she's transferring her debuffs, cleansing the other allies. This is on a 4-turn cooldown. So she's bringing block debuffs, she's bringing a full cleanse, she's transferring her debuffs, and she has continuous heal on all allies. Great healer, great base stats, a lot of HP, and a lot of speed as well. Big fan of Sanguinia, guys. If you're looking for a good support champion anywhere in the game, you don't look any further than Sanguinia. All right, next up is going to be Armina. So Armina is probably the exception to the rule that we just spoke about here. This is not a support champion. In fact, she's very squishy. I'm going to, talk about the downside and the upside on these champions. champions. 683 defense? What? What? Armina, can you take a hit or what?
You hit that guy! He shouldn't have been standing there.
The good news is she's really good, right? So she has a stun on her A1, 45% chance at landing when booked. On her A2, it's an AoE with decreased defense on a 3-turn cooldown, so she can be your decreased defense champion. She actually has good multipliers as well. She can deal a little bit of damage. And then she's stealing turn meter from the targets who are under her decreased defense, which she has, again, at 100% land rate, providing the affinity and enough accuracy. So she's stealing turn meter, so that's great control in her kit, and then she has more control on her A3. She is decreasing turn meter by another 20% on a 3-turn cooldown, and then if the target has their turn meter fully depleted, she puts them on a stun, and keep in mind, this is coming off of stealing more turn meter, so hopefully their turn meter is going to be very low to begin with, and hopefully she's going to be like the Energizer Bunny. She's going to keep going and going and going because she's stealing it over here, she's depleting it over here, and then her passive fills his champion's turn meter by 10% each time an enemy receives a stun debuff. So what I like to do is pair her with Syl the Drakes or Archmage Helmet, champions who have a stun in their kit as well, and she's just going to be constantly filling her turn meter between that A2 and this passive. You can have a lot of fun and a lot of effectiveness with Armina. I'm a really big fan of this champion. Not a lot of people talk about Armina. Next up is going to be Shatterbones. Ogren Tribe Shatterbones, man, I love this dude. He has an increased attack on all allies for 1 turn on his A1. Nice to have, albeit the small version of increased attack. If you don't have it on another champion on your team, well, Shatterbones got you covered, right?
No, not really.
He's a force affinity kind of control champion. He has a 3-time hitter, and each hit has a 75% chance when booked out to decrease the turn meter by 30%. That is insane turn meter control, guys. 3-time hitter, 75% chance to decrease turn meter by 30%. It's on a 4-turn cooldown. One of the better control champions out there in the game. And then on Warcry, his A3 on a 5-turn cooldown. Long cooldowns, but they're well worth it, these abilities. Has a decreased speed on all enemies for 2 turns, and then fills the turn meter of all allies by 25%. Kind of a nice hybrid control, kind of like a Lysandra-ish ability here. That's probably a stretch, but still a very, very unique and cool champion in Shatterbones. Next up is going to be Lizardmen, and I'm going to go with, I want to give it to Broadmaw, but I'm not going to, but everybody should pretty much go for Broadmaw because he has a 2-person revival on his A3, and he got actually a pretty decent buff to where his A2 is definitely, useful now, and he's a permanent fusion inside this game, so I recommend everybody really fuse this champion if you don't have him yet, because if you can't use him right now, or if you can't use him in Faction Wars, you don't need him in Faction Wars, you will be able to use him on Secret Rooms and Doom Tower hard. There is a couple Lizardmen only Secret Rooms, or at least one. Epics only as well. That's very challenging, so Broadmaw is going to be able to carry you through that content. Skathix, I'm going to give the award to. He has an AoE chance at stealing a buff from each enemy. Not bad. It's a 100% chance when booked up on a 3-turn cooldown. Really cool ability. And then on his A3, it gets much cooler, right? We have a full cleanse, and then block debuffs, and then a shield based on 20% of his max HP for 2 turns. This Scale of the Ages is an insane support ability that a lot of you guys are going to be able to benefit from. I mean, shield, block debuffs, and a cleanse. Really, really strong there. Really strong. Then he has block damage to keep himself alive as well on his passive. Skathix, a very good, kind of, again, recent-ish champion added to the game. Skinwalker's going to take it old school here with Flesh Terror. Flesh Terror, guys, do not believe the reviews on this dude.
Move this man!
He's a lot better. He's very unique. He has a chance of transferring a random debuff from this champion to the target. Okay, that's not that unique, but it's kind of cool to have on the A1. Why? On that A2, we get a heal, 30% of his max HP, which is really a solid heal. You build him with a lot of HP. Increase the duration of all ally buffs by 1 turn. That's a really, really solid ability. I made a whole video about how I underrated the increased duration of buffs ability inside the game, and it gets even better. On his A3, this is what makes him so unique. No champion in the game, unless I'm missing somebody, I think there's no champion in the game who has increased duration of buffs, decreased duration of all enemy buffs, and increase the duration of all enemy debuffs all in the same champion. That is really cool, right? So he's kind of low-key, right? A lot of newer players do not recognize how invaluable this sort of a kit is, right? Decrease the duration of all enemy buffs by 1 turn, increase the duration of all enemy debuffs by 1 turn. That does require accuracy, obviously, for you new players out there. And then increase the duration of all ally buffs by 1 turn. It's a mouthful. Really, really good support champion. Very unique. It's a kind of a champion who doesn't really show up on the stat sheet, right? But he's really good. I also want to give a nod to Basher, who's an amazing champion as well. All right, next up is going to be what we just did. We just did Skinwalkers. Where am I going? Where am I going? All right, Orcs. So Orcs, I'm going to give it to Old Hermit Jorg. Old Hermit Jorg is a much-needed reviver in the Orc Epic faction. We have 2 random allies, 60% HP, fills a turn meter by 40%, and a Perfect Veil. This is on a 5-turn cooldown. This is a very, very good revival, especially for an Epic champion. And then he has increased attack on all allies and a 20% turn meter boost. All of a sudden, I can't talk halfway through the video, on a 3-turn cooldown. And he has a burn, HP burn, on his A1. Makes him really viable for even like clan boss areas like that. Old Hermit Jorg is a really, really solid reviver inside this game, and I guess I lied. I guess there's Shaman for a, I mentioned a much needed epic reviver, but Shaman, meh, we don't really like Shaman that much here on the channel.
That all you got? I'm still here! Yep.
Her base stats, though, her base stats are pretty solid. Demon Spawn, we're gonna give it to our daily login reward champion, Tanix Hateflower. She got a lot of hate in the beginning, but man, there's more than meets the eye on this champion, guys. On her A1, she heals all allies by 3% of her HP with each hit on targets under decreased speed, okay? So a 6% heal based on her HP with each hit. Again, it's a 2-time hitter, so 3 plus 3 is 6. Wow, we're getting math here on the channel today.
Real men of genius. Real men of genius.
And the decreased speed is not that critical because she does have it on her A2 as well. It's an AoE decreased speed, provided the attack is critical. So again, all those enemies are going to be under decreased speed a lot. Having the AoE decreased speed, the big version on a 3-turn cooldown, is really, really powerful. It's one of the better control debuffs inside the game. And then she has damage mitigation as well by 5%. She'll be soaking up that damage instead. And damage mitigation passives are really, really valuable in this game. An extra 5% damage mitigation doesn't sound like much, but it does add up. She'll be, you know, soaking up a bunch of damage and healing at the same time. Again, is she an end game epic champion in this game? Certainly not, but can she provide a lot of value? Is she super underrated, especially for faction wars? Absolutely. All right, next up is going to be Undead Horde. Now, this was a tricky one, because I feel like everybody knows Husk and Dark Elhain and Seeker and Gorgorab and Mausoleum Mage. I feel like the good champions, and Vogoth, obviously one of the best champions in the game. I feel like the good champions everybody knows about. The rest, meh, you know, all right. I'm going to give it to Anax. Anax is a really high quality debuffer, guys. On the A1, decreased defense, big version. It's only a 35% chance, but you pick up Sniper Mastery, it will go to 40% chance, and it's on each hit. So it's a pretty dependable big version of decreased defense on his A1. On his A2, single target, decreased accuracy, and poison for 3 turns on a 3-turn cooldown, big version. So we get big version of decreased defense, big version of decreased accuracy, a big version of poison on a 3-turn, lasting for 3 turns, and then we get the big version of weaken and a heal on himself. So man, he's carrying a lot of the more sought-after debuffs and some damage as well. Great for bosses. Clan boss, obviously, but he really has all of the debuffs that you need, or some of the most important and hard to get. The big version of Weaken, for example, hard to get debuffs in the game. Hard to find a champion who brings this much to the table, only missing decreased attack in terms of the most important ones. Also has some kind of self-preservation on his passive, which is nice to have as well. So I'm gonna give it to Anax there. How do you guys feel about that decision?
It doesn't matter what you think!
Dark Elves, I love Caden, but I don't think he's underrated. I think people know how good Caden is, right? Maybe, kinda. Visionary's not so bad, but I'm gonna give it to Captain Tamilia. What am I doing? What am I giving all these these teasers out here, these honorable mentions or whatever? Captain Tamilia is a really, really solid support champion, guys. Has a continuous heal, big version on this champion on the A1. Not bad to have, right? We get increased defense on all allies and a heal by 15% of this champion's max HP. This is on a 3-turn cooldown, so we get a great heal, and we get the big version of decreased defense. And then we get ally protect on all allies on a 4-turn cooldown, which is absolutely fantastic. We're mitigating a ton of damage damage. Between the ally protect, we're keeping her healed up because we need to. She has ally protect. She's soaking up all that extra damage. And then we have increased defense and a heal. Captain Temila. Captain is an A+ champion. A+ for an epic support champion who just doesn't get a lot of love, and I'm not really sure why, frankly. All right, next up, we're going to go ahead and go to Knight's Revenant, and that is going to be Golden Reaper. So I could have given it to quite a few champions here, but I really like Golden Reaper, man. And I think that a lot of people know how decent she is. For a Void Epic, the expectations are high. They're high for Void Epics. However, my girl really brings it. First of all, she's fast and she's all about speed. I mean, her best ability is called Alacrity. Increase speed on all allies for 2 turns and boost turn meter by 20%. So listen, you could tell me, sure, Apothecary has the same ability, but it's only a 15% turn meter boost. Well, she's faster. She is a Void Epic. She ought to be a little bit better, right? But then Apothecary is one of the best rares in the game. But she has the increased speed and the turn meter boost. This is a really good speed kind of lead for the arena, or excuse me, speed booster for the arena. She doesn't have a speed lead aura, but that would be really fantastic if she did. She also has an AoE decrease attack for damage mitigation on her A2 ability. So it's a unique kit. We have some damage mitigation, decrease attack, and then we have the increased speed and the turn meter fill. She also has some control of putting in allies, putting in enemies, decreasing a random skill by 1 turn. Nice to have, again, not a game changer, certainly. But I'm a big fan of Golden Reaper. Again, she's really fast, too, at 111 base speed, especially for a rare champion. Next up for Dwarves, man, I love Runekeeper Dazdirk. I'll give him a little shout out here. He has the cleanse, he has continuous heal as well, increased attack and turn meter boost. Very good champion who, again, not a lot of people talk about, but I am just such a massive fan of Rockbreaker. He's a really, really unique champion. He has a chance of totally blocking incoming damage, a 50-50 shot, which is really, really good. So that's a 50% chance. I said totally blocking, my bad. Cutting it in 50%, which is really good for the red boss on Dwarf Faction Wars. This is how I got through the boss, by leaning on Rockbreaker. He also has a guaranteed provoke on all enemies on a 3-turn cooldown with a counterattack on himself, guaranteed when he's booked. Counterattack on himself leads him to landing a bunch more of his A1. On his A1, another incredibly unique part of his kit that no other champion has. Increases this champion's defense by 4% each time this skill is used. So, ergo, you pair this with the AoE Provoke on a 3-turn cooldown, he's going to be boosting up his own defense by 20%, especially when you get to the red boss. So I love Rockbreaker, and he has defense in arena battles by 30%. Okay, not the best aura, but still, fantastic champion. I really love Rockbreaker. Shadowkin, there's a few here that I might be tempted to give it to, but I am actually going to give it to Hatatsu. If you've been watching this channel a while, you know this champion's really, really good. Kind of a newish champion, 1,000,000 books, which is the super downside on this champion. Man, why do they got to do that, dude? Why do they got to do 9 levels on the A1? 9 level, Plarium, 9 levels on the A1.
I wonder why.
Here's a leech on the A1. Not too bad. 60% land rate if you use the 8 books or whatever on him. An AoE decrease attack on the A2 on a 3-turn cooldown. On the A3, we get increased defense in the big version, both big versions of continuous heal. This is on a 3-turn cooldown as well, and he's going to remove a random buff at the start of each of his turns. He's going to prioritize the CC debuffs, stun, freeze, etc. as well. He also has defense in all battles by 25%. I mean, this guy is a really, really good support champion, right? Again, increased defense, continuous heal, decreased attack, leech, and then removing CC from himself with one of the better defensive auras for all battles at 25%. Hatatsu is a really solid support champion. I know a lot of you guys are struggling with and/or working on Shadowkin Faction Wars. This guy can really help you guys out as well. So guys, there it is. Those are my most underrated champions in every single faction in the epic rarity. Let me know if you want to see another one of these videos talking about legendaries and rare champions, and who knows, maybe some uncommons, whatever. We'll have crazy. We'll have fun with it. We'll have fun with it. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and as always, take care, guys.